Hello and welcome to Rotted Review of the Day, and today I am opening the 14th door to our advent calendar of Christmas horror movies with 2015's All Through the House. This movie had some good potential to it, but ultimately I think it fell into some pretty serious traps of low-budget corner cutting, and it wound up being a wholly unremarkable slasher that just wasn't a whole lot of fun, and I don't think was worth the time to watch. But to get into more details, let's get into the categories. As always, 4 different categories, each one worth up to 25 points for a total possible score of 100 points. And the plot of this one, I gave a 5 out of 25. This followed the character of Rachel as she's home for the holidays, and she's spending some time with friends, and she gets invited by the housebound neighbor lady to help out with Christmas decorations. This is a woman that goes to the nines for Christmas and does all sorts of really lavish decorations, but is getting older, doesn't have the wherewithal to accomplish that without some help. And in the meantime, while this is going on, there's also a slasher Santa masked killer going around. There's really not a whole lot of meat to this one. There's just not a lot of storyline to go on. This tries to have kind of a clever ending, a sleepover camp kind of esque ending, without the benefit of being as clever as Sleepover Camp with any characters that I cared about. So ultimately, all aspects of this movie really failed. The characters themselves that were in this one, the motivation didn't make a whole lot of sense as far as why they were doing what they were doing. The plot structure was constantly tripping on its own feet, and there was really no linear, coherent storyline to be had in this one that I really got behind. As an example, it would go through the storyline of Rachel, but when it came time, especially during the first 2/3 of the movie, to actually have the killer Santa happen, it would take place in a location and with characters that we had not been introduced to before, had no bearing on the story, and were never brought up again. It would just go through the line. You would watch Rachel, she would be interacting with the neighbor, and then it would cut to a whole different couple in an entirely different location, and they would get attacked and mauled and killed and castrated and gored by this masked killer. And then it would move on. It would continue the storyline of Rachel. Those people had never been in the movie yet. It wasn't like, she passed by the florist shop and then the florist got attacked, anything like that. It was simply, we're going to take these people and we're going to disembowel them strictly for the sake of having kills on screen. And although I will love slashers for being a bit lackluster in terms of plotline, that is going a bit too far for me to have characters that are on screen for no other reason than to be killed and then never show up again, in terms of any mentioning, any newspaper articles, any TV reporters talking about coming to your town, batten down the hatches and lock your doors. It just simply had no relevance to the storyline one way or the other, and that for me made it a bit too superficial. And that's ultimately all the meat that the plot really had, was just characters I didn't care about and superficial kills. So, 5 out of 25. Couldn't give it any higher than that. The Intent, I gave a 2 out of 25. This was trying to be a scary, gory slasher film, and aside from some cheap gore, it really failed on all levels. So 2 out of 25 there. It just wasn't scary. It wasn't interesting. The characters I didn't really get behind, so it was tough to feel anything for them. Just a failure on all counts as far as that goes. This was just, it missed all the beats that a slasher should really be hitting and wound up boring me. The acting I gave a 4 out of 25. This was campy and over the top with very stilted, poorly delivered dialogue. And even with the campiness, it still somehow missed out on any sort of cleverness or enjoyment to it. yeah, none of the acting I could really get behind either, and that really didn't help as far as delivering any quality characters. The technical, I gave a 12 out of 25. I actually thought this was not terrible. It was the best part of the movie. This did have plenty of gore, plenty of makeup effects, and so forth, and although some of it was laughable, some of it worked pretty well, and I would say that it wound up in a place of average. The set design was actually fairly impressive. The neighbor's house, I really enjoyed. It was really, really Christmassy, and I really enjoyed the over-the-top nature of that. But that was really about the best part of the movie. So that gives us a total score of 23 out of 100 points. The big word that I can really use to describe this movie is unremarkable. I'm going to finish this review here, and then I'm going to forget about this movie forever in not too long of a time. And I really recommend against watching it. It's just not worth the hour and a half long investment. There are much better entries into the slasher genre, certainly the Christmas slasher genre. This was just a bit of a bland, pasty mess of cinematic pap, and it is worth passing by. But that should about do it for 2015's All Through the House. I really thank you for joining me here today. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow when we open that 15th door of the Advent calendar. And remember, next time you want to watch a horror movie, first make sure that it's good and rotted.